Today I want to introduce a Wing Chun training device which is actually not so well known. It's the Mui Fa Jong. You have two of them. And the idea of the Mui Fa Jong is a very, very old one, using pillars for step work and standing exercises we can find in many different Kung Fu styles. Especially in Shaolin Kung Fu, we find this idea very often. You might know it from different movies where the monks train their stances and their step work on pillars. Normally they were much, much higher than those, and they were just really put in the ground. And there's also one big difference between the use in Shaolin Kung Fu and in Wing Chun. Also the distance between the pillars was different. In Shaolin styles, the distance normally is much bigger. It's bigger because it's made for training the traditional stancing, like the horse stance Mabo or Gumbo, and therefore we need a very big distance. What is the name? In Wing Chun we normally use only those five. The name Mui Fa Jong. Mui Fa is a Cantonese word. The Mandarin word would be Mei Hua, and this is the plum blossom. It's because when you look on it from the top, this special pattern reminds on the plum blossom. That's where the name comes from. So in the past, this idea of those pillar training was very, very common. But as time changes, it's got more and more difficult. For example, around Yip Man's time in Hong Kong, of course, it was not possible for them to put their pillars somewhere. So what Yip Man did, he started just to draw some marks on the ground. And that's also what many people do nowadays. There's also the legend that says that the nun Nik Mui was also training on those pillars. And because she was smaller than her male colleagues, she had the problem that for her the stance was almost too wide. When she had to stand, for example, like this, it was difficult for her to fight. Although she was very, very good fighting on those pillars, it says that she was never beaten, also in training fights, never beaten. But because the stance was too big for her, she decided very often just to stand on one of those pillars. Then she could kick and started using a single leg stance. And so is the legend that this was also had its impact on Wing Chun, the idea of the single leg stance. If we imagine now to add some more pillars on each side, this would make in total 8 more pillars. These 8 more pillars would also represent like 8 directions. Those 8 directions are very important in Chinese philosophy. It's the idea of the Bagua. And if we have now more pillars, we could move much more flexible, much more freely. But maybe at a certain point in history, the idea was just to concentrate on the center and to specialize on really close range fighting. So of course the question is, how can we benefit from training on the Mui Fa Jong? We get some ideas about our step work. If the opponent attacks us, we could either step on the free pillar or try to conquer one pillar where the opponent is already standing on. What else do we learn when we train on the Mui Fa Jong? We have to stabilize our stances. For us, especially when we practice Wing Chun, the distance between the pillars diagonally is very big, and it's very hard for us to train that we are still able to raise the front leg, because I can't keep my hip here at the back, because then I hardly can reach this pillar. And if I want to go in, I need to get my hip, my structure more in the center, because I need to get out some power out of this movement. So this is very important to train. And we also, as I said before, have the idea of single leg stances. And also they can be trained very, very well on the Mui Fa Jong. So this is important. Another important aspect is that, for example, when we train the wooden dummy, we always have one limitation, especially since the wooden dummies were in Hong Kong put on the wall. In the past they were freestanding, but since they are put on the wall, we can never train a 360-degree range. We are always in front of the dummy, maybe we have a 45-degree angle or another 45-degree angle, but it's never 360 degrees. And the Mui Fa Jong brings us back the idea to move really in a circle and thinking about all directions. And as I showed already before, it gives us many ideas how we can use our step work in a fighting situation. So, if you like the video and you want to know more about Wing Chun, in this channel you will find many videos, and in the future also many more in English, and maybe we see again in one of the other videos.